What character do I like most? Nightcrawler.
Okay. Tell me about what you like about Nightcrawler.
The stark dichotomy of Nightcrawler. He's a demon priest, is his nickname. Best friend of Wolverine, like always always true to himself despite the situation. Like at one point he had a device that would let him look like a normal human being, and he was most uncomfortable using that out in public and loved being himself. So
Mm-hmm.
he hated to hide any parts of himself, regardless of how off-putting he would be. I mean, blue fur, long tail, blue skin, yellow eyes. He looked like a demon, but he was a priest.
Mm-hmm.
Very much the don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And how do you relate to that statement? Don't judge a book by its cover.
well, you've known me for years. So I come from Trenton, New Jersey. I grew up around gangbangers and drug dealers, and to look at me, to talk to me, nobody would ever guess that. I'm multilingual. I've traveled the world. Currently working on my master's degree, have my bachelor's in psychology, and I'm a police officer. That's not things that anybody who would ever glance at me would ever guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's much more to you, just as there's much more to him. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what would you say are his weaknesses?
Uh, Despite being his power set is teleportation, but it's incredibly limited. He can only travel line of sight. There are other teleporters that can do so much more with their powers, but he's only good in a short pinch. He needs to be able to see where he's going in order to get there.
Right.
That's a severe limitation, especially if you're talking about on a battlefield or if you're trapped inside of a room, no lights, no windows. How do you do that? That's probably his major weakness. His dexterity, he only has 3 fingers, 2 toes. That affects your dexterity and the ability to grab things, do things like he would be able to use a keyboard. As
Yeah.
somebody, you know, uh, he looks like a demon, terrifying and off-putting, and people will not initially deal with him for any reason.
Right. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I wouldn't necessarily do this, jump right into this with somebody I didn't know well. So being a Black man in America,
Mhm.
how do you feel that relates to what you just said?
110%. So it's funny you mentioned that. My son actually pointed out to me something the other day. He goes, "Hey, Dad, how come everybody is so scared of you when they first meet you? Like before you even open your mouth or even look at you?" I'm like, "Well, because I'm Black in America, son. Like that's just the long and the short of it. People become more comfortable around me, but there's always that underlying thought process of what if, what's he gonna do next? You know,
Mm-hmm. You don't judge a book by its cover.
can't.
Right. Right.
53.